found it here, the Sam Harris clip with Jonathan Haidt and the little clip on Trump. So, by the way, I am reading. People have never seen this here. There are actually 7 magazines. It's Memories magazines. I got this 1990, and it's just fantastic. I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on this stuff. I am a sucker for nostalgia. Like, who isn't? You know, and the older I get, the more I search for that warm, fuzzy feeling, even if things weren't so good. You know, and it's kind of ironic because I am a Democrat, liberal, progressive, if you will. But you know, the old times. If it ain't broke, then for sure keep it. You know. Okay, let me just play this, and then I'll talk. Okay, again, this is from the Making Sense podcast. Sam Harris from a couple of days ago. Jonathan Haidt, I don't know, but there's no video, so I don't have to worry about just holding up the phone, which is some people don't like. But okay, here we go. Listen, on Trump, motivated reasoning.
Well, so I don't know how in the weeds you've gotten with Trump supporters. I've commented on this in several places, and the thing about the Trump phenomenon that has been most mystifying to me is that among his supporters, and not even people who are unsophisticated, even people who I'm surprised to even discover they did support him at all. What I find that is truly mystifying and really just confounds any effort to have a reasonable conversation about politics is a total unwillingness to admit that there's anything consequentially wrong with him. That his lack of understanding of complex issues, that his bluster, his dishonesty, that any of this is in any way negative, right? What I feel like I meet in trying to convince Trump supporters of anything is just an absolute stonewalling on points that just seem objectively true, and my noticing them is not at all a sign of my own partisanship. Just to say that Trump lies more than is normal in a politician. That is as objectively true as the Pythagorean theorem. There's just no possibility of debating that. And yet, even that will not be conceded. Or if conceded, there'll be some assertion that it just doesn't matter. Yep. All politicians lie is the mantra.
How many times
you
I've
will
heard
reliably hear at that juncture in the conversation. And there's something like 100 points like that. It's hard to understand what is at the root of it, because this is not an ordinary form of tribalism. This is not like members of the Christian right who are Christian fundamentalists, and they have a whole worldview organized around their having grown up evangelical or whatever, and now they're voting for whoever it is, George Bush, because he's on their side and he's going to put in the right conservative judges and block abortion. And it's not part of a whole system of belief like that. It's just, in many cases, the only thing that seems to be organizing it ideologically is a revulsion at the status quo, that was repudiated in the 2016 election. The business as usual that Hillary Clinton represented, we don't want any more of that. And also, we probably don't want to pay any more in taxes. And you get those two variables clattering around a person's brain, and it has summed to something like a cultic unwillingness to admit the obvious just across the board whenever the conversation turns to Trump.
Yeah, so let me give you a handy little psychological tool that can explain.
You're getting tired of looking at my face.
So there's a wonderful term. There's research by Tom Gilovich at Cornell, who studied motivated reasoning, and I got this little formula from him. He says, when we want to believe something, we don't look at the evidence and say, is the evidence mostly on the side that I want to believe? We just say, can I believe it? Do I have permission to believe it? Meaning, can I find one example, one argument, one piece of evidence? And if I can, I'm done. I stop thinking, because if someone challenges me, I can point to this piece of evidence. Whereas if you don't want to believe something, you say, must I believe it? Am I forced to believe it? So I've had the same experience as you. I have several, I communicate with a lot of people on the left and the right, and I have some very smart correspondents who are Trump supporters. And I've had that exact debate with him about whether there's something wrong with him. And, the psychiatrists say the most likely diagnosis is narcissistic personality disorder. He makes everything about him. And you and I think that that's as objective a fact as the sun rises in the east, that he does that more than other people. But once you understand that everybody's asking not, is it true, but must I believe it? Well, the answer is always no. There's almost nothing that you have to believe. Certainly not anything about politics or anything that can't be measured exactly precisely and with no questioning about what the rules are. So you and I can point to, well, look at the fact checkers. They find 10,000 errors. Well, the Trump supporters will simply point out that those fact checkers work for the Washington Post or Snopes or other places that have known left wing biases.
It really is
Right.
exasperating.
So it's very hard to get at the truth, and I think of course there is a truth, but when Trump supporters ask, "Must I believe it?" the answer is always
I think that's
no.
it. Yep.
And one of the best ways to get a little bit more humility here and calm down the anger a little bit is to say, just always turn it around and say, is there some different issue on which my side is just as obtuse? And, I think people on the right would point out that, well, people on the left, pretty much anything about race and gender and LGBT and, immigration. I mean, there's all these issues that are sacred issues on the left, at least in my part of the left and, universities.
Yeah. But as you know, I spend a lot of time hammering the left for its
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me-
epistemological bias.
Pretty good, right?